Modern cruise liners are true marvels of engineering. Massive, floating cities designed for perfect, carefree vacations, where every maneuver and every stop is calculated to the minute. But when nature decides to intervene, even the most precise and perfect schedules collapse like houses of cards. June 2026 became a harsh reminder of this immutable truth for thousands of passengers aboard the Royal Caribbean cruise giant. The liner, Liberty of the Seas, a monumental Freedom-class ship with a gross tonnage of over 154,000 tons, found itself at the epicenter of events where human plans violently clashed with unpredictable elements and social crises. This is the story of one complicated voyage that proved, on the open sea, the final word always belongs to the circumstances. This story begins in late May 2026. A classic 7-day sea voyage along the picturesque coasts of the Iberian Peninsula was planned for the 3,634 passengers on board. The initial route looked perfect and promised smooth navigation. Departure from the British port of Southampton, then a passage to Vigo, Spain, from there to the Portuguese capital of Lisbon, and a final stop in Bilbao, Spain before returning home. However, the first problems began even before the liner cast off its mooring lines. On May 31st, the cruise company faced a force majeure that had nothing to do with the whims of the weather. Mass strikes broke out in Lisbon. Local trade unions organized large-scale and uncompromising protests aimed at resisting labor code reforms proposed by the Portuguese government. The port infrastructure was under a real threat of total paralysis. To avoid a logistical collapse and guarantee passengers a safe vacation without getting stuck in a blockaded port, the liner's command made the only possible strategic decision: to completely redraw the schedule. The route was reversed. First, the massive ship headed to Bilbao, then made the passage to Lisbon, hoping to bypass the peak of the civil strikes, and concluded its port program in Vigo. It seemed the first crisis had been successfully overcome, but the main, purely maritime test awaited the liner on its way back. The return to the home port of Southampton was scheduled for 6 a.m. on June 7th. The liner was supposed to calmly cross the waters of the Bay of Biscay and smoothly enter the English Channel. But the waters around Great Britain have long been famous for their treacherous, harsh, and highly volatile nature. On its way home, the Liberty of the Seas came face to face with a powerful and dangerous weather front. Meteorological services recorded heavy rain and gale-force winds of up to 28 miles per hour, about 45 kilometers per hour, in the Southampton port area. But in the open water, directly in the ship's path, the situation unfolded according to a much worse scenario. Heavy seas, short and sharp waves, which are a characteristic feature of this region during stormy weather, created conditions where approaching the shallow shore and mooring became unjustifiably dangerous. Even for a technological giant like the Liberty of the Seas, equipped with ultra-modern stabilization systems, battling the open elements requires maximum caution and calculated actions from the crew. Having assessed all the technical risks and bearing responsibility for over 5,000 lives, including the crew, the ship's captain made a difficult but necessary decision: to critically slow down and wait out the worst and most aggressive part of the storm in the open sea. The arrival of the multi-ton liner was delayed by at least 6 hours. In the rigid world of the modern cruise industry, a 6-hour arrival delay is a true logistical earthquake. The consequences of the storm in the strait instantly triggered a chain reaction that ruthlessly ruined the plans for the next voyage. As early as June 7th, the liner was supposed to vacate its cabins and welcome a completely new wave of passengers for a short 5-day North Sea cruise with an itinerary of Hamburg, Germany, and Zeebrugge, Belgium. The management of Royal Caribbean was forced to act in emergency mode to avoid a catastrophic crowd and chaos in the port. They sent out urgent warnings. The Southampton cruise terminal would be completely closed for entry until 2:30 p.m. All new passengers were given a clear instruction: mathematically shift their arrival time by exactly 3 hours from the originally scheduled time. Those who arrived earlier than the adjusted time would be ruthlessly turned back by port security. Strict limits were set for every guest. Everyone, without exception, had to check in at the terminal by 6 p.m. and board the ship by 6:30 p.m. so the vessel could leave the port as quickly as possible and try to make up for the time lost in waiting. Now the captain and the engineering team had to squeeze the absolute maximum out of the liner's power plants. Ahead lay 560 nautical miles of rough water to Hamburg. Fortunately for the passengers and the company, the schedule for the next voyage included a full sea day on June 8th. It was these 24 hours of continuous sailing that would be decisive. The ship had to run at the maximum permitted speed, cutting through the waves of the North Sea, in order to dock on time in Germany on the morning of June 9th. The next stop, in Zeebrugge, Belgium, scheduled for June 11th, remained unchanged. This May to June voyage of the Liberty of the Seas serves as a telling example of the domino effect in modern cruise logistics. A combination of two typical maritime factors, port strikes on land and stormy weather in the strait, required quick adjustments of plans from the company and the crew. Such incidents are an integral part of operating passenger vessels. They clearly demonstrate that no matter how detailed a schedule may be, it will always remain dependent on meteorological conditions and the current situation in the ports of call.